What's up, guys? This is Pedro from My Stuttering Life, where you will hear the good, the bad, the very ugly. We're going to laugh, we're going to cry, but through it all, just know that you are not alone. So, let's get started. This is episode number 128, and my special guest is Xiaofan Lei. Xiaofan Lei is a PhD candidate in speech pathology at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. Lei is a person who stutters, and her research focus is on stuttering in daily life. Lei is originally from China, but she has been studying in the U.S. for close to 10 years now. She has lived in Mississippi, Wisconsin, and Minnesota. She is now in California, where she lives with her husband and her dog, Salsa. I am honored to have her as a guest with me on the My Stuttering Life podcast. Welcome, Xiaofan Lei.
Yes, thank you, Pedro. I'm glad to be here and sharing my experiences, and you can call me Lei if you want, so I'm glad to be here.
Awesome. I thank you very much. I have been practicing, how to pronounce your name. And so I apologize if I mispronounced it.
Oh, no problems. Yeah, I sometimes cannot say my name as well, since as people stutter, I sometimes stutter on my name, and it can. And when people who don't speak Chinese, and I need to give them a model how to say my name, and I cannot give that to them. It sometimes can be quite a long conversation about how to say my name, but. Yeah, but you did great.
Awesome. I thank you very much. Okay, so this is a great honor. We have a lot of topics to cover, so let's get started. Okay, now, do you remember when you first began to stutter?
Yeah, so I know that for most people who stutter, they may begin when they first started to talk around 3 or 4 years of age, but for me, I don't have that memory, and maybe my parents didn't remember I stuttered when I was a kid, maybe because because they weren't paying attention or something like that. But when I first remembered to stutter, when I was already in high school, and I was in an English class, and I've always being a little bit quiet, so I don't talk that much during class, and during that time, I think my how I interact with other people changes as well, because I changed schools and things like that. But anyway, when I was in that class, I tried to because I can speak English quite well, so my English teacher asked me to stand up and read an article in our textbook, and there's a word, the word British in there, that I stutter on that word every time I read it, and I think to myself, well, am I stuttering? Because I do have a cousin who stutter, and I have a friend who used to who stutter. So I thought, well, am I doing the same thing? And I think from then on, I realized myself to stutter more and more, and and to this day, I still trying to figure out what happened, and that's how I realized that I stutter.
Have you ever had speech therapy in school? And if you did, was it helpful?
I don't. So when I first started to stutter in China, there wasn't a speech therapy available, and I was focusing primarily on passing like the college entrance exam, which is every student in China do. So I was quite stressed at that time, and I thought that, well, I will deal with stuttering after I graduate when I'm in college. So I didn't go to speech therapy then. And when I'm in college, I do search online and to see if there's speech therapy available in my city. And I did find a place, and that's offered by somebody who used to stutter, and then he later through practice maybe have become more fluent, and then he started a class and then try to teach other people how he did it. But it was, when I got there, it was in a very sketchy part of town, and I'm not quite sure whether that's gonna work or not. So I didn't stay. But I did try to find therapy. And also, yeah.
No, go.
Oh, yeah. And when I came to the US, and when I tried to study speech pathology in my PhD program, there are therapy available, but I didn't go for it because I'm already looking into different therapy options for stuttering, and I thought I know what it's like, and also it costs money to attend those sessions, and maybe at that time I wasn't at a stage where I would pay for therapy. So and I don't have that much money, so I didn't. I didn't go for that. But if I have that option when I was in college, I would definitely go for it. Yeah.
So I'm curious. You are a bilingual. Do you speak any other languages?
No, I just speak Chinese and English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you find that it's harder, your native language, or is it harder in a different language, as in English?
Yeah, I to myself, I find it easier to talk in English. Maybe I think there is a social and cultural element to that, because in China nobody talks about stuttering, and I don't know how other people feel about me, even though, and also people will praise people who are pretty fluent in their speech, and I feel that, well, if they're praising somebody who's fluent, then people may think that me stuttering may not be as good. So I try to hide myself as much as I can when I'm talking in Chinese. But when I came to the US, when I was an undergraduate student, I started to talk more, maybe because I feel that people may think that, well, I'm just a second language speaker. If I'm not fluent, then that's not on them. So I know that stuttering is not caused by anxiety or pressure, but sometimes having that kind of pressure do exacerbate stuttering, so make it worse than how I normally talk. So
see, and I find that interesting. I speak Spanish and a little bit of Turkish, but I stutter equally in all three languages. So, so yeah, it's just extremely interesting. So I just wanted to, ask that. So
yeah, I do like stutter maybe roughly the same, but I feel much worse if I stutter in Chinese. And I guess that's how I feel about the situation.
You were talking about having to read out loud in school. For all of us, it's a traumatic experience. It's a horrible experience. School as a whole, how did you handle school with having a stutter?
Not very well. So when I was in high school, it was a very stressful time for me. If you know a little bit about the high school experience in Eastern Asia, but it's very intense schooling, and it's very primarily focused on the exams and going to college, and there are not so much actual curriculum activities going on at all. So it was a very intense time, and I also stutter. So once in a while, people will call on people, like the teacher will call on maybe a row of student and say that, well, maybe from the first one to the last one, you will say the answer to the questions on the exam. And so I will count like how many people will are before me, and which question and I need to prepare to answer, and that anxiety kind of build. So when it's my turn to talk, I was just feeling really anxious, and sometimes the thing I need to say isn't very long at all. So maybe sometimes I just say like, if it's a multiple choice question, I just need to say A, B, C, D. But I will stutter on those letters, and at that time, maybe the other students are under a lot of pressure, so they will kind of burst out into laughter. And I know that they don't mean to laugh at me, but maybe they just don't know what is stuttering, and they just find it funny that somebody do that. And so it wasn't a very pleasant experience for me, and I was I don't know how I compare to other people, but I was quite I was under quite a lot of pressure, so sometimes I got really emotional when that happened, and I hold back my tears, and if I want to hold back, I will want to cry more. So that wasn't fun. But at the same time, I also try to study. So even though I really want to cry, but I have study to do. So I really didn't handle high school well.
Ooh, I have to tell you, Lei, I have got to tell you, school, it is rough. To hear you talk about your experience as, having to answer, and give a quiz answer, and you are counting how many people are in front of you. And I don't have to tell you, Lei, I don't have to tell you. That is stressful. Your heart, my heart, it wanted to explode out of my chest. And so I have got to tell you, Lei, let me tell you, I did it one time. And oh my God, I blocked, I repeated, it was horrible. I heard the laughter. And so then I walked out and went into the boys' restroom. And so, every time I had to read out loud or answer a question out loud, I would raise my hand and go to the boys' restroom. So I spent the bulk of my school life, Lei, in the boys' restroom to avoid the trauma, the shock of, because physically, I couldn't take it.
Yeah.
I was sweating, my heart was hurting, my chest was hurting. I said, no, I have to survive. So how I survived was
Yeah.
I went to the boys' restroom and just kind of hung out.
Yeah. Yeah. I really relate to that. Even though I didn't walk out I because that's not very very common, and I don't want to draw more attention. But I did like
I
talk to my
understand.
teacher.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I had to get out of there because I could, I had a a hard time breathing. So yeah, I had to get out, and so yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that. All through school. I did it in undergrad. I did it in graduate school. I would just hang
Oh,
out in the restroom until I didn't have to talk out loud, and then I would go back. So yeah, it's me. It's how I handled
it's a
it.
process.
It is a process. It's survival for Pedro. It's survival. So yeah, it's just me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I want to ask you: do you have any advice for parents, teachers, and speech language pathologists regarding children who stutter?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a $1 million question, I think. Like, how can the adults around children who stutter support them? I thought about that because I study speech pathology, and I read articles about what clinician can do to support children who stutter and what parents can do. But I think above like all those techniques and different methods like people can use, I think maybe first and foremost to me is that they need to be they need to examine what they think about. So examine what they think stuttering is. What does it mean to live a good life? What does it mean to have a good job? What does it mean to so I think a lot of those ideas around those bigger questions may influence how we view stuttering and how we go about coping with stuttering. I think that the adults need to really examine their their thoughts so that they can be of guidance to children who stutter, and be so that they can be wise and offer those wisdom when children who stutter, they don't have that, they haven't developed that yet. So so for example, there's always there could be the belief that children who stutter could hear that, well, if you stutter, you shouldn't do you shouldn't work in a job where you need to speak a lot. Maybe you should choose a career that doesn't require that much talking. That's maybe a common thing that children who stutter can be exposed to, and then maybe at this point, the clinician or parents who stutter, they need to think about whether that's a good suggestion or not. And so I think that it may differ case by case, and but the parents or the clinician should kind of reflect on what's the belief around behind that suggestion, and are those beliefs really truthful, and how can we challenge that? And I guess when it comes to stuttering, people who stutter, for a lot of people I stutter that I talk to, they think a lot. I think that does help so that they can reflect on how they view life, and that can help them cope with stuttering better.
See, and that is great advice. Great advice. Because, I mean, when I was in speech therapy, and let me tell you, Lei, it was in 1975. Woo, a long time ago, Lei.
Yeah.
Long time ago. The only goal way back then, it was to have me talk like everybody else. And so when I would walk in, it's like, oh my God, here we go again. I'm broken. And so they're going to fix me. And so, it was a little rough. However, now I am happy to hear that in speech therapy now they are incorporating the mental health aspect. How to handle a bully and peer pressure, and depression and all that, which I think is just wonderful. I wish I had that, in 1975, but everything happens for a reason. So yeah, but you gave great advice. I thank you for that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, so have you ever faced discrimination because of your stutter? And if so, how did you deal with that experience?
So I don't. So because for most of my life, I have been avoiding stuttering and trying to hide as much as possible. So I don't face. I guess to avoid those outright discrimination that people who stutter more may face. But when I do stutter and when I do share that with people, I feel, I don't know whether I should call it discrimination or not, but maybe I can tell the story and you can tell me. It was it wasn't because I also have been trying to create an environment where people around me are familiar with stuttering and know what it is. So I have been in school for a long time. I study speech pathology, so I know that I'm among friends and allies. So I don't face discrimination that much, but my experience doesn't speak to may not be the same for everybody. But there is an instance where I was doing an informational interview with a potential employer. So I'm looking into different job options and exploring different possibility. So I'm not at that point to apply for jobs yet. I just want to know more and get to know, just to put my, I guess dip my toe in the water a bit. And I talked to a lady, and she said that, well, you don't, and I disclosed that I'm a person who stutter, and I wondered, do you have any suggestions for me when I'm navigating the job market? And she said that, as long as you can do the job, then whether you stutter or not doesn't matter. So you don't need to be defensive about it. And at that point, I thought, well, am I being defensive? And I thought, am I being
defensive?
Paranoid? Yeah, am I being paranoid about feeling that it's harder to find jobs as a person who stutters? And I guess I guess my ability to perform a job and how how do you want to assess that? Yeah, so I think that what she I think she meant she what she didn't mean to be. She didn't mean to push back to the fact that I disclosed to be somebody who stuttered and seeking suggestion as somebody who stuttered. I think she just says that, well, you want to just put yourself out there and then just trust other people that they are going to see through your stutter and just look at your ability to perform a job. Yeah, so that's my experience. I don't think you can call it discrimination, but it does make me feel that, well, how should I? Yeah, I don't know.
Well, let me tell you, in job interviews, I mean, I cannot tell you, Lei. I cannot tell you how many times just horrible. I mean, I would come out there and I just want to hang my head down and go hide under a rock. However, later in life, I learned if I just tell them, because I can't hide this. There's no hiding this, Lei. There's no hiding this. If I just disclose and tell them, look, hi, good morning. I'm Pedro Peña. I have a speech impediment. I have a stutter. If at any time I get hung up on any words, give me 8 hours and hopefully it'll come out. And when I hear them, have a chuckle or maybe a laugh, it's okay because I got it out there. It's out there. And now I can focus on answering all of their questions. And now it puts it also puts them at ease because, I also, had told them that, if I'm having a block, my eyes may close. If I'm having a repetition, my arms, they may go all over the place. It's just me. So I want to let all of you all know that is what might happen. And they nod, and then it's all good. And then, and they start and they're asking me questions. I'm giving them answers. And then at the end, it's like, look what I did. Look what I did. I did fantastic. And they tell you, afterwards, you did a great job. And then I got hired. So, I mean, I know that we're all different in our journeys. And, I may work for, a one person. It may not work for another person. But I can only speak for myself. When I tell them and disclose, it just helps me out. So, yeah, it's just me.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And also, I have, and I also heard people say that you also want to interview the interviewer as well. So if they are not comfortable with you being a person who stutter, then even if they hire me, they're not going to like me. So I think we also want to find a place where people are okay with stuttering, and that's the place for to find the right kind of job rather than just to find a job. So.
See, and that is a great point that you make, because early on, I had anxiety and fear, because they were interviewing me. However, later in life, I thought, no, I am interviewing y'all. And so if I am, comfortable, with all of y'all, then, I'm good to go. I'm good to go. So yeah. All right. How about we talk about some ADLs? And these are activities of daily, living, as in the telephone, and then going through a drive-through, and then a restaurant. How do you handle the telephone?
I think for all those daily situations, I'm getting better. So I used to fear talking on the phone. I used to really don't. I really dread ordering food at a school cafeteria, for example. But now I think I'm getting better, and I think the more I do it, and the more I guess understand stuttering, and the better I can, the better attitude I have approaching those situations, and the easier it becomes. I think my how I do in those situations do changes, and sometimes I can be quite fluent on the phone, but sometimes I cannot say a sentence without stuttering. So it does changes for me in that sense as well.
Ooh, I have to tell you, Lei, the telephone, it was my enemy. It was my nemesis for years and years and years until I told myself, I have to learn this. I have to do this because, I have to work. I have to get a job, a career. And so they are going to have telephones. They're going to have telephones. And so what I did was I bought a telephone off of eBay. And so then I practiced on it. I didn't have it all hooked up. I just had it on top of my bed. And so what I did was I practiced, making calls and receiving calls. So I did that for half a year, every day. I practiced. And then here's the cool part. So after that half year, it became boring. I mean, it was amazing. There was no more anxiety or fear. All that it was, it was just because I practiced every day. I desensitized, myself, to it. And now, whenever it rings, I just answer it, and it just all works out. And so, many coach will tell you, if you want to get good at anything, you need to practice. And that's what I did. And it worked. It worked on the telephone. I practice in drive-thrus. I still have a hard time, but I keep on doing it. Like you, I keep on doing it because I'm hungry, Lei. I'm hungry. So I want to make sure that I get the food. So yeah.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk about our pandemic. Okay. In March of 2020, we halted everything.
Yeah.
And so if we were in an office and working with people, I was good with that, Lei. Ooh, let me tell you, I was good. However, in March of 2020, they shut everything down and they said, Pedro, here is a headset. Here is a webcam. And so now you will be working from home. And Lei, let me tell you, as a person who stutters, this has pushed me and other people who stutter out of their comfort zones. And so I told myself, can I do this? And so, what I do is I spiral, and then I doubt myself, imposter syndrome. And then after, doing that for 24 hours, the next 24 hours, I said, look, I have to do this. And so I called up a buddy and we practiced on Zoom and Teams and Skype. And so that way, on Monday morning, when I had to do it, I did it. But I mean, I had, a bunch of blocks and repetitions. And so I told everybody, it is not your internet connection. It's Pedro.
Yeah.
I just have a stutter.
Yeah.
You know what? It's me. It's, it is not, whomever is your internet provider. And so, it worked out. However, I want to ask you, how did you handle this new normal?
Yeah. So for me, during the pandemic, I was in graduate school. So I was taking class and TAing, like being a teaching assistant through Zoom. How I feel is that so for me, I guess I actually saw a research study last year in a conference that looked exactly at this experience of how adolescents do over video conferencing through the pandemic, and some people experience so for all of the adolescents who started, their experience changed, but some changed for the better and some changed for the worse. So for me, my experience, I do feel is also different. I guess for me, I don't feel it to be that much worse. I kind of sometimes I even do like the Zoom situation, because there wasn't a pressure around me, and I kind of like talking to a screen. And participating in seminars in that way can be easier, and I can see everybody's faces, so I know their reactions. So instead of like like being in the classroom where it's harder to see everybody. So for my case, I don't feel it to be that much different, but in some situation it can be a little bit better. So I don't, but that's my experience. Yeah, but I do understand what you said though, and especially with the internet connection, and people may talk over each other, and you haven't finished talking yet.
And so, in regards to a Zoom or a Teams, a meeting, or whatnot, I only look at my webcam. Because if I see other people's webcams as I'm having a block or repetition, I said, no. I am not at that point yet. I mean, I do have confidence. However, in Zoom, with, all their webcams, I just have to do it, over and over again to, help me deal with that. But I only look at my webcam. I don't look at any others because, I know what I can do face-wise.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to see anyone else's face.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes people may because I think we all, to some extent, don't like being in meetings. So sometimes people are bored or distracted, and sometimes I feel that, well, is it because I'm not being interesting enough, or are you just zoning out? So there's a greater pressure to try to draw people's attention as well while we talk. So I can see that as challenging too. But well, in a in-person situation, I think there's just a better communication between people, and it's just more fun to talk in person.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And then also, when you had to go out, how was it talking through a mask? Because I had great difficulty. But how did you handle talking with a mask?
Yeah. So for me, I guess it's very similar with the Zoom experience. So it's also personal, but for me, I quite like wearing a mask because because one of my secondary behavior when I was in before, like a couple of years ago, is that I like to cover my face when I stutter or have a block, because I don't want other people to see my facial expression. And when I'm wearing a mask, and I felt, well, it's already covered and people are not going to see us. So I kind of feel, yeah, sometimes I feel quite safe that way. But I can also see that it's harder to to speak loud enough and clear enough for other people to hear through the mask. And yeah, I guess it has its yeah, for me at least, it has its pros and cons.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, now, so do you think it is important to have a thick skin as a person who stutters?
Yeah, I do think that's really important because a lot of what's holding me back from talking and participating and from stuttering is I feel that shame of like stuttering in front of my friend who I may want to impress, but I stutter. So there's that kind of sense of shame that's holding me back, and so at one point I think that it's better for my image if I don't talk compared to sharing my wonderful thoughts with other people while stuttering. So I guess I feel more shameful to stutter than giving people the impression that I don't know anything. So I guess there is that there's such a deep shame that's associated with stuttering. So, and having a thick skin that without that shame, and maybe have a better understanding of what kind of things are shameful. So maybe like sharing our ideas while stuttering, and sharing knowledge with other people is not shameful, even though we stutter. But holding back and even though you know things, and not saying things and appearing to be simple, to not know anything is shameful. So I guess so at least for me, I need to readjust to what kind of things is shameful, and do not feel shame about just stuttering. And stuttering is actually something we should be proud. We can be proud of, and it's part of who we are. And having a thick skin, and even if other people may judge us or not think very highly of us because we stutter while we talk, but that's on them, not on us. So I think, but we need to talk first, and we need to take that initiative, and having that thick skin to kind of be to just to talk and to share ourselves. I think that's really important. And I think nobody is stopping us from talking, from participating. It's us, it's me who is stopping myself. So and that's maybe because I previously I don't want to. I don't have a thick skin yet, and I feel shameful to show a part of me. So I do think, I completely agree. It's really important to have a thick skin.
Ooh, I have to tell you, Lei. Growing up, I didn't. I did not have one, and so I took everything in. I mean, I took all of their hurtful comments. I mean, I took everything in. I internalized it. At some point, I believed it until one day I said no, enough is enough. And so once I had accepted and embraced my stutter, I mean, a decades of shame and guilt was gone. It was gone. And so, I told myself, Pedro, you're awesome. You're awesome. You don't care what other people are thinking about you or talking about you, because you are awesome. And once I did that, Lei, let me tell you, a whole new world opened up. And now, it took, it took over, 30 years. 30 years it took me to finally have a, thick skin, and once I had it, I said, okay, I'm good to go. And so, and people, not all people, not all people, but, there are some people who still will, look at you and mock you and tease you and laugh at you. But you had made a great point. That is who they are. I know I'm awesome. I know that you're awesome.
Yeah.
And so if you want to, build, yourself up by, laughing at me, that is on you. I know I am awesome. And so, but it took a long time, Lei. It took a long time, but no. Awesome.
Yeah, that's hopeful to hear. I think having like people who already have went through that process and become comfortable and acceptable of themselves is such a great thing to hear. And for all the children and other young people who started, who may still be in that process, I think it's great to have these kind of examples in life that to work towards. Yeah.
I thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, now you were talking about secondary behaviors, and I got a bunch of them, Lei. I got a bunch of them, and so I want to ask you that question. So, is it a tool for you to help you get over a block and or a repetition?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier that I try to do less secondary behavior probably because I do research on stuttering, and I read that having secondary behavior is not helpful eventually. So, but before I major in speech pathology, I feel that, well, if I'm using that, I'm trying to cope with it. It's a way for me to deal with it. So before I started to do research on it, as I mentioned earlier, I cover my face. I just try to not letting people see what I'm struggling through. And I also, I guess that's the main thing that I do.
There are times where, if I have a severe block, I will close my eyes. Hopefully,
Oh, yeah.
It'll come out. And then my hands, my arms go all over the place to kind of help me, get over the hump. But I'm still, learning, at the, young age of 52, I'm still learning. And so, I'm trying to learn to maintain the eye contact. It's hard for me, but I am still, working on that. As you can tell, my eyes are closing, but I'm still working on that, Lei. But no, it's all good. I mean, I have to do what I have to do to get over a block, a repetition, because for me, it's called survival. So I just have to get over it. Yeah. It takes time though. I'm still young. It's all good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so, are there many strategies or techniques that have helped helped you with your speech?
So for my speech, I remember I don't use that much techniques. Maybe because it wasn't drilled into me through speech therapy. I didn't do that, but I do know, I'm aware of the different techniques people can use. So sometimes sometimes when I'm in the block, for example, I try to loosen up a little bit and just to get through that block. But I don't use it very regularly. And I remember when because I was a teaching assistant, so I lead lab sessions in front of maybe about 15 to 20 students. And I need to go over the class materials and introduce them to what they need to do in this lab session. So when I first started doing that, I was really anxious about it, even though I will tell them that I stutter and they are students in speech pathology. They're taking a class in speech pathology, but I still want to present the information in a just as clear and as efficient as possible. So I remember I kind of on my way to the classroom, I kind of pray and I said that, well, if I stutter and if they if anything if they don't if I cannot deliver because if they don't like me because of that, and that it's going to be okay, and I can stutter, and it's also okay to be a little bit anxious too. Everybody does. So it's kind of like a session where I am talking to God and talking to myself that it's okay to stutter and it's okay. I'm doing my best, and the students are accepting of different speech differences. So I guess I don't work with stuttering per se. I kind of work with how I approach a situation where I need to talk a lot. So I work with that emotional aspect a little bit more, so that I deliver all I need to deliver and be present.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, now, do you experience phases in your speech? As in, one day everything all comes out. And then, the next a couple days, nothing comes out. Do you experience, phases in your speech?
Yeah, I do. And that's actually because I do research on stuttering, that's actually my dissertation topic. I look at changes in stuttering across different situations and over time. For me personally, I do experience that. So for example, I talk to my advisor regularly. So once in a while, I set a meeting with her. So it's the same situation. We're talking about very similar material. But I do notice that in some sessions, I'm really fluent. And in some session, as I said earlier, I cannot say a sentence without stuttering. So even though I'm talking to the same person in a very similar situation, but my stuttering severity changes. And that fascinates me as well. Like how can people be fluent on one day but not on the other? And I don't feel that much different either. It could be that I guess a lot of factors could come into play, but yeah, I do experience those day-to-day changes in stuttering. Yeah.
See, and that is interesting because for me, there are days when just everything all comes out and people tell me, you don't stutter, you're just
Yeah.
faking it and you want attention. It's like,
Yeah.
no, why would I fake
Yeah.
this? The trauma, the shock, no. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have any, control. It comes out whenever it comes out. It's random.
Yeah.
And I mean, like what you were talking about. When I talk to my coworker every day, there are days everything comes out, and then when I'm talking to her, I mean nothing comes out. I mean it's just,
Yeah.
who knows? However,
I think that's one of
hmm?
Oh, I think that's one of the things that makes stuttering challenging as well. And I think maybe that it makes stuttering different from other type of disability, if you want to call stuttering a disability. Because for somebody who are deaf or who are blind, they cannot hear and they cannot see. But for people who stutter, sometimes you can feel that, well, aren't they talking just fine, but sometimes they do stutter. So there's that kind of variability. And I think because of that, people may misunderstand stuttering as well. People may feel that, well, you're just not working hard enough to, for example, overcome your stuttering, so that on some days when you're in, you can do it, on some other days you cannot. But they don't realize that variability is a characteristic of stuttering. It's not something people control. And even if they are using their techniques, on some days they just feel like a stronger tendency to stutter, and that's out of people's control as well. So yeah, and when people comment that, well, you're like, why you don't stutter on some days, then I think that's an opportunity to educate and advocate for stuttering as well, just so that the misunderstanding around stuttering doesn't get like perpetuated or something. Yeah.
Ooh, yes. And I mean, I have to tell you, Lei, I educate. I take the time to educate him or her. And so that way, for the next time they encounter a person who stutters, they are, a better, equipped and prepared, because, when you know better, you do better. That's my mantra. But yeah, educate. I mean, I do that almost every day, Lei. Almost every day. Because I talk to so many people every single day, and they just, growing up, they were not exposed. And it's like, no, I'm here to educate. And so that way, if I have a block, you know what you have to do, Right. So yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, and also I kind of feel that's a good conversation starter as well. If people are curious about stuttering, then there's an opportunity to have a deeper connection with that person. So one time, I think last October it was the Stuttering Awareness Day, and so in the area where I live, there one other person who also stuttered. So on that day, we thought that, well, we want to do something special to celebrate that day. So so we created an information sheet about the facts and myths about stuttering, and went to a mall to talk to other people in the mall about, like, well, today's stuttering awareness day, and here are some facts about it. And what surprises me is that some people are very curious, and they have friends or relatives who also stutter. So I think I was really moved by that, since I didn't know what to expect, but people are kind of very open to share and talk about it if I'm willing to approach people with that. So yeah, and I feel that maybe that's one of the because I know that there's Professor Chris Constantino. He talks about the stuttering gain and what can we gain from stuttering. And I think one thing we can gain is that there's always something to talk about not just the weather, but also about stuttering if they want to hear about it. So yeah, I think once we get over with being ashamed of stuttering, there's just a lot of great experiences to have, and yeah.
See, and 2 points. Okay, number one, I loved how you went out there and handed out a one sheet, a paper on facts and myths about stuttering. That is awesome. The more that we can, get it out there. I mean, that's just awesome. And then also Chris Constantino, he was on my podcast about 2 years ago, and just amazing.
Yeah, isn't he amazing?
He is just a huge inspiration. I'm like, sir, you're killing me. You are awesome.
Yeah.
I am so proud to have you
Yeah.
and him and many others. I'm out there and educating and, raising awareness because, at the end of the day, if you know better, you know what? It works out for everybody,
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So here is a hot topic. So we have a couple of hot topics. Here's the first hot topic. So it's a big one. I ask every guest on my podcast, and their answers are split right down the middle. Respect everyone's answers because we're all different. So I want to ask you, Lei. So do you let others help you finish your sentences? Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I will be standing in the middle because before when I was in high school, when I was struggling so much with stuttering, I just wish somebody can just say for me so that I don't need to struggle anymore. And it's apparent what I try to say. But now I want to just say myself, regardless how much trouble I could go through. Yeah, so I guess I share I share experiences from both sides.
Awesome. I thank you for that. Okay, now, do you experience negative self-talk? And if you do, Lei, how do you handle that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do. So I think so. For example, I do sometimes think that what if I don't stutter? Won't things be better? And I will think that well, if I stutter, I can't do this and that. So I do experience that from time to time when things get rough. Yeah, but I guess I just let it because I don't because I know that those feelings are not true. They're not helpful either. So even when I have those thoughts, I experience it and then I let it go. I don't hold on to it and I don't criticize myself with thinking that way. I understand that, well, it can be hard to stutter and going through life when it's not easy going through life if we don't stutter anyway. So yeah, I guess I just let those thoughts come and go.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Lei, you are #awesome because let me tell you,
Yeah.
I would hear him every day. For decades,
Yeah.
until one day I gave him a name. I named it. And once I named it, I took back the power. So I called him Oscar the Grouch. And so, he would tell me every day, you can't make that phone call. You don't know how to talk in a presentation. Every day he would hit me with everything all negative. So what I would do, I would counter it with positivity. I am going to do it and I'm going to be awesome. And so I would shut him down because, he would pop up on the daily, Lei, on the daily. He would pop up, but I would shut him down. I said, no, Oscar, I'm going to do this and I'm going to rock it out. I'm going to be awesome and fantastic. And that's all I got to say. And then I would shut him down. But let me tell you, the struggle is real, Lei. The struggle is real. He pops up every day with, a negativity, but I fight back with positivity. I'm tired, Lei. I'm tired every day, Lei. I'm exhausted, but you know what? I win every day. So yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. So that's that's why it's important to know the truth, and knowing that what our head is telling us is wrong and it's not helpful. So yeah, to like let our children who stutter know what's how to what's the real how to value themselves, like yeah, I do agree with you. So we need to equip ourselves with those positive thoughts so that we can fight with those negativity. Yeah.
You are so right, Lei. You are so right. Okay, now, if you have a win, okay? I mean, if you are doing like, a special, a project or presentation or anything, speech wise, and then you do it, and I mean, it turns out fantastic. Do you do you celebrate having a win?
Yeah, I feel really happy. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how other people who do not stutter how they feel after a presentation. But after I give a presentation, like as long as it doesn't like tank, is that how you will describe? As long as it doesn't like go horrible, I will feel really, really happy that I did it. I put efforts into it and I delivered it. So I get that joy after giving a presentation and just having a good conversation. I think that's one of like returning to the stuttering gain. I think that's one of the things I gain having a stutter too, that just being like just finishing tasks that other people may feel it's small or trivial, but I feel really happy. I'm celebrating. I'm just telling my mom and my husband about it. So I do celebrate and feel really, and I will also try to seek out those experiences, because I know I will feel really good after I go face to face with my fear, and I do it, and I'm able to finish it. So yeah, I do, and I seek out those small wins as well.
I mean, I don't have to tell you, Lei. I mean, it is important to celebrate having a win, because it builds upon your confidence. And I mean, after I give a big presentation, I'm on stage and there's like 30 or 40 or higher people in the audience. After I'm all done, if I hear this, I said, look what I did. Feeling. Look what I did. And so, after I hop off stage, I do a little happy dance. And so then, I tell myself, look what I did. And it was awesome. Yeah. I mean, I tell myself, awesome, you did a great a job. And so, I mean, I think, it is so important to, act knowledge, that you had a win, and then you're gonna celebrate it. So, yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now, so here is a head scratcher. So I ask all my guests, and it's split right down the middle. I mean, it's a head scratcher.
Yeah.
So here we go. So, when you are alone, can you speak without stuttering?
Yeah. So when I'm alone, so normally I don't talk that much. So I'm hearing myself talking in my head. And in my head, I'm completely fluent. And but if I do talk, so sometimes when I'm practicing talking, maybe in front of a mirror, sometimes I do stutter a bit, but it's less. But I stutter less than talking to like in a social situation. So I think that unless I feel that I'm completely alone, I'm not even practicing talking to another person, I guess I'm fluent. But if I'm imagining another person, I'm practicing my speech techniques, and sometimes I do even stutter when I'm alone. That's how I experience it. Yeah.
See, and I do what you do. When I'm alone and I'm talking to myself, as we all do. So when talking to myself, I'm going over my calendar in my head. I'm talking out loud. I still block. I still repeat. So, we're all different. So, okay, now, do you find that your that your stutter is worse if you are tired or stressed or both?
Yeah. I think maybe when I'm tired, I may stutter more because I let my stutter come out more. I'm not controlling as much. I'm not avoiding words as much. I'm just naturally talking. I think I stutter more when I'm tired. And I stutter more when I'm stressed too. I know, as I mentioned earlier, stuttering is not caused by anxiety, that's one of the common misunderstanding, that people stutter because they're just anxious, which is not true. But I do stutter more if I get worked up and if I'm anxious. So where I'm under stress. Yeah.
See, yeah. And I am the same way, exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I might be your twin, so it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now, has this ever happened to you? And so, let's say, you have a doctor's appointment. And so you walk into the building, you walk into the office, and then there's an admin person and they greet you. Hi, good morning. And then, they ask you, what is your name? And then you have a block.
Mm.
Okay, Lei, but I'm not talking a regular block. I mean, it's a block.
Mm.
So it is going to take time. And the admin person is asking you, did you forget your name? Has that ever happened to you?
No. But I do hear people having a chuckle when I stutter, because they may feel it's a simple question, but it seems like I don't know how to say it. But I don't have people who say that did I forget my name to me. I guess, I think that's a very, I think it's a very rude to say to people who stutter. Yeah.
Ooh, Lei, I mean, if I had a quarter for every time that happened to me, I would have a couple of Teslas and Range Rovers and Jaguars and Mercedes-Benz in my parking lot driveway. I mean, I cannot tell you how many times it has happened. And the old Pedro, I would get angry, and rage on them. However, the older Pedro, the calmer Pedro, what I do now is I educate. I tell them, Okay, so I have a stutter. I have a speech impediment. So what you might see, my eyes close and my arms go all over the place. And you might hear me, repeating. It's just me. So what I want from you is I want, your eye contact. I want your patience. I want your respect. Okay. And that way, as you are, I'm educating them, next time they encounter, another person who stutters, they are, a better, prepared to handle the next, person. Because, it's all about education at this point, and so that way, they know that, what we want is their, a patience, their eye contact, and their respect. That's all I want. So
Right.
That's just me. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes it easier for the next person who walks in the door, and definitely it's a small it does make the world a little bit better overall. While you're talking, I actually remember it's not exactly the same situation, but I do. So in China, every student, when they enter college, they need to go through like maybe 2 weeks of it's not like military training, but you're in school, and there is it's kind of like a police officer or somebody who is there teaching you how to stand straight, how to like walk in march in the on the playground. So it's kind of like a training everybody have to go through. And I was in that training once, and people. And one of the activity that people do is that they will like say their name in turn, and everybody in that kind of squad will say their name. And I have so much trouble saying my first name. It's my last name. So Lei, like this. I feel that I'm going to block on Lei, so I change it. So I swap it with a different. I guess I left out the first sound, so I say that my name is Xiaofan. So I didn't say the L sound, and the officer, I guess he just want to be funny and said, "Well, is your name A?" So, and I thought, well, yeah, and that was that. So so yeah, it's not exactly the same as "Did you forget your name?" But it's a version of "Is that your name?" Like, yeah.
Oh, I have to tell you, Lei. I have a hard time with, my name and the P's. And so there have been times when I'm at Starbucks and I really want a macchiato, really want a caramel macchiato. And so then when they ask you, what is your name? I can't say my name. So I will give them a different name, a much easier name, like Jorge Hernandez. And so then I give them Jorge Hernandez, and then they have it all written down. And then I go back to my table. And so, I am on my telephone. I'm multitasking. I'm, doing stuff, and then I hear Jorge Hernandez. I'm on my phone. I'm multitasking. I'm writing stuff down. you know, and then they will, look at you, Jorge Hernandez. I'll say, oh, yeah. I'm Jorge Hernandez. That's my coffee.
That's my stage name.
Right, that is my stage name.
Yeah.
It's called survival, Lei. It's called survival. So yeah. You know what?
Yeah.
We're all different. You know what? Life goes on. Life goes on.
Yeah.
Okay, now. So here is a question, in which I have added. Because, I want to hear how other people who stutter, what they think about this. And so I want to ask you this. How do you feel about the representation of people who stutter in the media?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I was in college, it was a time when the King's Speech came out. It was a great moment because now there's somebody in movie that people can tell me that, wow, there's somebody who stuttered in that movie, and also it's portraying stuttering in a so it's a story of a king overcoming his stutter and be able to give a speech. So it's a positive thing that it's raising kind of awareness, that telling people that, well, stuttering is a thing. It's not just people being nervous. It's not just that everybody stutters. There are 1% of the population who actually stutters. So it does raise awareness. And also recently, like with the president Joe Biden, and also the campaign leading to his presidency, there's more talks around stuttering, and I think he's also giving like a positive example of somebody who once struggled with stuttering but now can speak more fluently, even taking a role that requires a lot of talking. But sometimes I feel that in the media, the narrative is always around somebody who used to stutter and they overcome it, and it portrays stuttering as something that you need to overcome, that you need to so your success is defined by how little you stutter now compared you stuttered before. So there's still an idea that stuttering is something we need to get rid of, and it's still it kind of goes against what the self-help world is trying to advocate, that stuttering is okay and it's part of who we are. And also stuttering is an identity, and it's not something to overcome and to get rid of. I think the media is both good in terms of raising awareness, and also not so aligned with the direction that maybe the community wants to take, and also is not truthful towards the majority of people experience stuttering. So maybe there are some people who do, like, for some reason they don't stutter anymore, but for the majority of people who stutter, that's not the case, and it's not because they're not trying hard enough. It's just stuttering is a disorder, is part of and there's no scientifically proven way to help people to completely quote unquote recover from stuttering. So so it's a nice, I guess it's one representation, but sometimes it can be a misrepresentation too, like how
Ooh, Lei, I mean, that is a fantastic answer. when I was, growing up in the late 1970s, long time ago, all that was on TV was, a Porky Pig, and so, and that's what I was called, all through school, in grade school, in junior high, in high school, and then, in the movies, back in the day, people who stuttered, we were, portrayed as not having intelligence, and that really got me because no. We are extremely intelligent, and so now I'm hoping, I'm praying that a narrative will change. And then also, I want to see more people out there who have a stutter. I want to see a TV anchor person, either a male or female, to have a stutter. I want an actor to actively stutter. I mean, because like what you had talked about, 1% of the world's population have a stutter. We're out there. We're out there. I mean, and we are everywhere. We are, doctors and teachers and coaches and lawyers and business people and congressmen. We're all over the place. We need a representation out there to let other people who stutter know that we are awesome.
Yeah.
We're awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And even with the stutter. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, and
so
I think
No, go.
I think I think the representation of media kind of changes, and I think I missed the part where because in China there isn't a cartoon character who stutters about and movie. There are many movies. Like I guess the movie industry is more developed in the U.S., so there's more chance for misrepresentation. So when I grew up in China, so people who stutter are not mocked because of the what they see in movies or media, but they are kind of those sketch comedies where people, if they want to portray somebody as nervous or weak, they may throw a stutter in there just for the fun of it. So I relate to you on that, and yeah.
Yes. So I mean, that's why we are doing what we're doing. We are educating and raising awareness. So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So here is a deep question. You may have touched on it briefly, but, I want to ask you the whole question. Now, I respect everyone's answers. But I want to ask you, do you consider stuttering as a disability?
Yeah. That's a complex question. I think because now when I'm applying for jobs, the last question is, are you a person with a disability? I think sometimes I check yes, sometimes I check no, and it's a question that I'm asked constantly, but I don't have a very definite answer to it. So for me, stuttering is, as I mentioned earlier, stuttering is not like a disability. So stuttering is variable. So it's not like blindness or deafness, where people won't expect a blind person to see or a deaf person to hear, but they may expect people who stutter to just spit it out, as if we have control over that, but we don't. So it's I guess Yes. So whether it can be considered disability can be a complex question, and also stuttering is a disability. Also, not just because of the talker, not because of me, but also the listener, whether they want to listen or not, whether whether they get my message or not. So if I stutter, are they paying attention? Or if I stutter, are they hearing me? So if they are hearing me despite my stuttering, then well, there's no issue in communication. But regardless how I talk, if they're just going to find fault, then there is an issue in communication, and that's not entirely on me, but also between the two of us. Yeah. So so I guess that stuttering is a kind of a special kind of disability, and it receives a very subtle form of discrimination as well. So it may not be as so it could be those microaggressions people with a stutter may face, or they are expected to talk fluently when it's something out of their control. So I think if I have to give a yes or no answer, I would say yes, and because even because I think as a community, there are some there are different severity level, and for some people, it really interferes with how they participate in life, and for people whose stuttering is less severe, it also is part of their identity too. And they also went through their unique struggles. So we need to acknowledge those experiences. And so I would say stuttering is a disability, and we can have conversation with a larger disability community to kind of to work together to make the world a better place, and to find allies in that way.
Awesome. I thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so as you were growing up, did you ever think that your stutter might hinder your career path?
That's definitely a yes. And so because I guess my parents were teachers in high school, so what they do for a living is talking and teaching, and I have that mindset of, if my parents are going to do something, then that's the natural career path I may fall into. And I was really anxious for quite a long time that I cannot be a teacher. And so I think that's a negative self-talk that I had when I was in college. But as I look back now, if I know better, if I have better support network, I can be a teacher. But I think at that stage, that's how I feel, and that definitely influenced my career path. And my major decisions are shaped by the fact that I stutter. And now I'm doing a PhD in speech pathology because I just want to know more about stuttering, and hopefully I can use that research to have a greater impact on other people's lives. And now I'm thinking about transitioning from academia to the industry, so that I may not directly do research on stuttering, and that's motivated by a feeling that I want to not just talk the talk, but also walk the walk. So I just don't want to know what is stuttering and how to live a life with stuttering, but I actually want to be out there in an environment where I'm not sure whether people will know what stuttering is and will be welcoming of stuttering. And I want to just be maybe like you and many other people who are in the workplace, that can be a role model to other children who stutter. Yeah, that they can aspire to. They can they can work in all walks of life. Not just limited. So yes, my career path is all shaped by my thoughts about stuttering at that moment in time. So yeah, that's a definite yes.
Ooh, let me tell you, Lei. Ooh, as you were talking, I got goosebumps. And so, I'm what most people would call a contrarian. So if you tell me that I cannot do anything, Pedro gonna prove you wrong. I'm gonna prove you wrong. And so now, the career that I have right now, I am a teacher. I'm a trainer, and a bunch of people, ooh, and there's a list of people. They had told me, you can't do that because you stutter. You can't do that. And so, here comes Oscar the Grouch.
Yeah.
He comes on and says, they're right. You can't do any of that. Hello, you can't even talk. So and so what I did first was I shut Oscar down. And then I shut everyone else down. I applied, I interviewed, I disclosed my stutter in the interview. And then I got it. I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, and let me tell you, when I go on stage, what I have learned, there is a book. I don't know if you've heard about it, but I tell everybody, her book changed my life. The author is Mel Robbins, Robbins. She had wrote a book, The 5-Second Rule. And in her book, she taught me how to turn my anxiety and fear into excitement. And let me tell you, Lei, when I had applied that, before I walk on stage, I tell myself, this is going to be awesome. This is going to be fantastic. Look what I get to do. Look at all those people in the audience. They are waiting for me. They're waiting for me. And when I walk on that stage, ooh, look, I got goosebumps. When I walk on that stage, in my head, look how awesome this is. Look how amazing a person who stutters is on stage and about to give a training, a presentation, and then afterwards, after it's all done, I will hear this. I mean, huge applause. And let me tell you, when I hear that from the audience, look what I did. Look what Pedro did. I do my little happy dance, and then I tell myself I cannot wait to do the next one. So what I learned from her book, because I don't have to tell you, fear is a persistent emotion. And when fear and anxiety took over my entire body. I was paralyzed. But after I read her book and I learned to turn my fear and anxiety into excitement, look what I get to do. I mean, Lei, a whole new world opened up. And so if you are hearing this, Mel Robbins, if you're hearing this, I want to appear on your podcast, and then I want you on my podcast, just FYI. But her book, it changed my whole life. And now what I have learned, I found the joy of teaching, the joy of being a teacher. And let me tell you, Lei, it is the best feeling in the world. And so, I mean, it's so what I tell everybody, don't let people tell you what you can and cannot do in this world. You do what you want to do. I want you to chase your dreams. Chase your dreams. I mean, because, look at me. In school, I lived a life of isolation. In school, I would eat my lunch in the janitor's closet. I would eat my lunch or behind the school because nobody, I wanted to hang out with the kid who could not talk. And now, look at me now. I have my AA degree in psychology. I have a bachelor's in psychology. I have a master's in IO psychology. I was in the military. I got married. I have a child. I have a career. I'm teaching. And I mean, it's good. However, back in the day, I suffered. I was in darkness, but look how hard I worked. And so, I mean, it's all good now. It's all good now. So,
that's a great example. Just to example of show children who stutter what they can do. And I think a lot of the time it's the lack of imagination. So when I was a kid, I can't see myself in any position. So like having like people who stutter actually working in different walks of life, I feel that's really, I think that's very that's very like it's great in itself, but it's also very important to the community. Yeah.
Exactly. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is our last hot topic. Now, I know that you are married, but I want to ask you this anyway.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so we are going to talk about dating. So how was dating with having a stutter?
Yeah, it was also a challenge. I feel that like dating and finding to me at least is very similar to finding a job. Like there's so much searching and so much in that process. So for me, I guess at the beginning I'm not very confident, so I don't want to meet person even. But at one point I thought, well, I have to do this now. I have to put myself out there, and I really want to find a boyfriend, find a partner. So I did put myself out there. At the beginning I tried to also try to hide my stuttering, because at that point I'm not at that place yet to share that with other people. So for my husband now, I think when I talk to him about later about what he thinks about my stutter, and he said, well, I don't even know that you stutter when we met. And I thought, well, I obviously stutter. How can you not notice? Because I was kind of very insecure at the beginning. I thought, well, how does he feel? How does he think? And then he later said that, well, I didn't even notice, and it's not part of, it has not crossed his mind. So I think it's about, dating is challenging. Maybe because I think it's I think it can be an enjoyable process too. But for me at that place and time, it wasn't very fun for me. So to me, it's about finding the right person who that I resonated in other ways. But if I can do it again, I think I'll be more open about stuttering and see what happens. Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, you had made a great point. There is a person out there. There is a person out there. I mean, what I believe, is, is that there is a person out there meant for you. I tell everybody, it's going to happen. It's good, but do not rush it. It'll happen whenever it happens. If you're at, a Target or Walmart or, at the post office, I mean, it's going to happen when it's going to happen. So, don't put all that pressure on you. I mean, it's going to happen. Yeah. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to celebrate 27 years. 27 years in a couple of weeks. So, I mean, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm proof. You are proof. It's going to happen. So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, how do you feel about all this new technology? We have Siri. We have Alexa, Google Home. Do you think this new technology is helpful or harmful for people who stutter?
Yeah, I have actually thought about it because I had an internship in last summer in accessibility. So people in the tech world are trying to, for example, for people who have low vision, they are creating screen readers and different accessibility like settings to support like people with low vision for them to navigate the internet. And one of the function, one of the tool is a voice assistant. So that for people who are blind, they don't have to use a cursor or a mouse to navigate, or they can just use their voice, for example, and they can just talk to Siri and they will play a song and then tell them the weather. But the tool can make things accessible for one group of people, but become inaccessible for another group. So, for example, for people who stutter, and Siri, sometimes they don't catch stutter speech, and the technology is pretty new as well, and sometimes it didn't catch speech with foreign accents too. So it can be fairly inaccessible and creates barriers in how people who stutter navigate the web and take advantage of the technology out there. I think it's something that people need to people in the tech world need to work through. And I know that there are some voice recognition, I think it's in Google, where they are using stutter speech to train their voice recognition model so that they can understand speech with disfluency better. So I think those intention acts of incorporating people with speech differences into the design process of the system is definitely going to make things more accessible. And I hope that things will go the right direction, but I don't know.
Yes.
And technology, who knows? It can it can make things better, but it can also make things much worse. So we will having more allies in the tech world definitely helps in that regard. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I had to tell you, Lei, I have issues with all of them because, they don't give you enough time to respond. I need at least half an hour to breathe and do my mantras and do my tapping and do my positive affirmations. They don't give you time, Lei. They don't give you time. However, I do have some good news. So I was a part of two research studies at two different colleges, and they are creating an algorithm to help people who stutter, who do utilize a Google Home or the Alexa or Siri. So I mean, it is happening. So I'm really
that's awesome to know.
Happy about that. Yeah, I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, that wouldn't that be No,
go.
Yeah, and it will be awesome if Siri herself someday, if they can have a stutter speech, and just to let people know that, well, it's okay to stutter. I don't know whether
exactly.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, now.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is a challenge speech-wise that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Challenge speech-wise in terms of what kind of challenges, in particular? Oh, okay. I think
Yes, go.
Oh, I think I can continue. So, I mentioned that example before. Is that when I love teaching, so I love delivering information, but it takes a lot of time because I need to prepare. And maybe I haven't do a formal comparison with other teachers, but I do spend lots of time, sometimes writing out the scripts and saying them once before a class. Just so that because I know I'm going to struggle with it, and I want to be as prepared as I can. So teaching does take a lot of time for me. And that's one challenge I face. And one semester I need to teach a class by myself, even though it's on stuttering, it's on fluency disorder. So I need to give around 10 lectures that semester, and at the same time I need to do other things. So I just feel I don't have that much time each week to prepare for these lectures and give them in real time. So I come up with a solution just to create all the lectures during the winter break, so that in the actual sessions, I can spend that time working on activities or assignments with students, and they can watch the lecture that I pre-recorded at home. So in that way, I can lighten my load to prepare lectures each week. And I think it's a innovative solution to teaching as well. So I think my challenge, like that I come across in teaching and stuttering, it kind of motivate me to adopt the more and probably a better teaching method out there. So so that's a challenge, but I think it pushes me to be a better teacher too. Yeah.
How cool. I thank you for that.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know you had just, touched on this, briefly, but I want to hear the whole answer. So here is the question.
Yeah.
So, do you think it's okay to stutter, or is it important to keep chasing the chasing the fluency gods?
Yeah, I think it's okay to stutter, and the more like I am comfortable with myself stuttering, and other people are, the better our lives is going to be. But at the same time, I understand that there's a larger world outside of my control, that there are things that need to happen, and meetings need to be done, and then maybe people who doesn't want to understand or don't have that, it's not part of it, they don't feel why they need to understand. So I think there is a time and place to use techniques to be fluent, and it's like code switching. So like people with, for example, maybe who speak a different accent of English, if they can speak both accents, sometimes they will code switch between the two. It's not that one is better than the other. It's just that there's just sometimes things just has to be done, and I know that I know that in the ideal world, that if we can just show who we are and just stutter, wouldn't that be good? But I know that there are some situations. I at least for this time, for fluency. So I think it's definitely not good to chase the fluency god. But I think it would be nice to be able to code switch between stuttering and have the techniques when it is when it may be helpful. And I know that there is a better way to achieve greater spontaneity in talking. I think that's a concept introduced by Chris Constantino, and he has introduced such wonderful different techniques to achieve fluency that's not through just using techniques. So I think there's a place for both. Yeah.
Awesome. I thank you for that.
Yeah.
What has your stutter taught you?
Yeah, it has taught me a lot. So I think we have touched upon it like throughout our conversation. It taught me how to like be a better teacher, how to be courageous, to put myself out there, and how to be vulnerable, like talking to strangers in the mall about stuttering. And how to work hard so that I can like even though I have a stutter, when people do not understand, they see my strength. it also taught me how to be empathetic. So I really I really completely understand like the struggles other people are going through, because I'm going through my share of trouble. So yeah, that's really from my heart, not just trying to pretend. So it's yeah, stuttering has taught me a lot. Yeah. And
Awesome, awesome,
yeah,
awesome.
even though sometimes I still feel that, what if I don't stutter? Wouldn't it be nice? But that's just my negative self-talk, like coming up
Oh,
again.
yeah. I've been there, Lei. Believe me, I've been there. I've been there.
Yeah.
Okay, now, so here is a powerful question. It might be emotional, but it's a powerful question. So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to your younger self?
Yeah, to my younger self, I think I avoided so much when I was younger, like avoided being a teacher, avoided talking, and I avoided so much. I recently saw a kind of an image. It says that, can I do it? Like it says that I'm scared, and then the other option is to do it scared, and maybe in your case is that do it scared and excited. So I think for my younger self, I would tell that, well, you can try. How about trying it out and do it scared and do it excited, and all the experience you gain, like being teaching, and like that's the experience that you will gain, and that's will all work for the better. I think I will just tell my younger self not to avoid and do it scared and do it excited, as I learned from you today. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. I thank you for that. Woo. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was powerful. That
Yeah.
was powerful. So here is our last question. And it's a big one, Lei. It's a big one. All right, so here we go. If you had the opportunity to give insight about stuttering on the world stage, what message would you convey?
Yeah, I will try to say that stuttering is not our fault, and currently stuttering cannot be cured, and stuttering does not need to be cured. And people who stutter have lived very good life, and they contributed a unique experience. Yeah, like all the examples we have, and they give us so much wisdom and diversity in the human experience. So even though there are challenges, but they are good challenges, and all the community we have. So I will tell people that stuttering is okay, and it does not need to be cured. Yeah.
Ooh, that is a powerful message, Lei. I thank you, thank you, thank you. And so I want to just, I want to just tell you, that I've had the best conversation. I thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so proud to have you in our community and working in our community. I mean, you are a bright light in our community. So I want to tell you, I thank you, thank you, thank you for spending your, a day with me on a weekend. I want to thank you, you are a huge inspiration, and I mean, I cannot thank you enough.
Yeah, it's an honor and pleasure for me too. And also today is actually the Lunar New Year, so it's a special day too. So I'm glad to spend this day with you and talking about stuttering, which is my favorite topic.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, now, this podcast is in 121 countries. 121 countries.
Wow.
Woo! I am just all blessed. I'm blessed. I have amazing global listeners. What if they wanted to reach out to you? What would be the best way to have them do that?
Yeah, the best way is to reach me through my email or through LinkedIn. And you can find a link on the website on the podcast, right? Yeah.
Oh yes. I will have those links in the podcast notes, and so that way anyone around the world can reach out and just say, you know what, you're awesome, and I want more information. So I thank you. And down the road, all right, I want to do this again, because when do you graduate?
In the summer, so this year.
Awesome. And so, later on, later in the year, let's talk again, because I have maybe other, questions to ask you. Alrighty?
Yeah. Yeah. That would be great. It's a pleasure talking to you, and I would love to give you a feedback of an update of how things go.
All right. Awesome. I thank you very much. I hope you have a great day. Take care, be well, and stay safe.
Yeah. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, head on over to Apple Podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review. Thank you for listening, and we will talk again.